If your future self wrote you a letter, say 10 years from now, what would they tell you about the decade that you're about to enter? This is an exercise that I've wanted to do for myself for some time, like write a letter to myself 10 years from now and see what comes up. I've done that recently, and I'm going to read to you part of that letter and do a separate video that goes through the entire letter to myself. Well, before I get into the letter, I just want to welcome you back to the Good Life Lab. I'm Dr. Dave, and this is day 16 of our series from Languishing and Lost to a Good Gay Life. I'm a therapist and coach and college professor turned YouTuber. So I've written this letter to myself as a way to encourage me to live into what I hope will happen over the next 10 years. Before I get into the letter, I'm going to share in this video today this exercise that I've done, or two of them really. One is called the ideal end state, and the other one is called the remarkable Memento Mori 10-year good life quest. So those experiences of really projecting myself 10 years from now, what I want to happen 10 years from now, over the next 10 years, have helped me, really imagine my best good life. So I took that content, the ideas around what my life could look like over the next 10 years, my ideal life, and plugged that information into ChatGPT and asked it to write a letter to myself 10 years from now. And we went back and forth. I kind of changed some things and added to it. So it's based on my content, but I've just asked ChatGPT to draft a letter. So that's how this letter came about. And I'm just going to read a portion of it and then do a separate video where I go through all of it. I'm doing it really for myself, but I'll give you a glimpse into that process, into an example for yourself of what a letter looks like and some of the goals I have for myself. So this is it. So just the beginning of it. Hey Dave, I'm writing to you from a quiet morning in 2035. After a morning awe walk in the neighborhood, I'm looking out the back glass doors from our home. So the valley below is waking, the fog rising, hawks circling, the memorial trees glowing in the early light. So often see hawks behind here, owls, and there's a valley here with fog that rises in the morning, which is really beautiful. And I want to remind you of something important, something true. You lived your mission, not perfectly, not without bruises, but fully and with grit and grace, mostly. You built worlds of friendship and awe and meaning for yourself, for your loved ones, friends and family, and for men who needed a place to breathe and belong. Your friendships grew into a moai, which is a Japanese word for this tribe, a circle of chosen family who walked beside you, laughed with you, held you steady. The men's circles you started, they grew too. Small fires in many places where gay, bi, and questioning men gathered for story, for curiosity, for purpose. You helped them speak desires they had hidden. You helped them feel less alone. And your awe, you kept it alive. You walked every day. You listened. You let the world nurture your soul. And you carried those walks of wonder across continents. Italy, Iceland, Spain, New Zealand, even Antarctica. Places that I've been but also want to go to, or revisit. Each place left you a clue. And you, in turn, left breadcrumbs for others to follow. Your awe walks around the world became tiny lanterns people return to whenever they forget what's beautiful. Your work found its breath, too. Your books, The Gratitude Visit, The Year I Lived, Project 46, Naked Dudes Night, Project 60. They help people come out, come alive, and find meaning in their own darkness and shadowed chaos. So I'll stop there. It goes on for another page or two. Again, I'll do this full letter as a separate video for myself. So I'll look at that occasionally maybe, but hopefully in 10 years I'll be able to look back and see where life has taken me. A little reminder as we move into this exercise for today, we've just explored sacred anchors, things that ground you, and also core values, what guides your decisions. And now we begin to extrapolate those anchors and values into an ideal future using what I call the remarkable Memento Mori 10-year good life quest. And Memento Mori, for those who aren't familiar with that, basically means remember you must die. Sounds morbid, but that's oftentimes thinking back on your deathbed and at your life and what you hoped you accomplished. That's kind of the sentiment here is what's your remarkable life that you want to make sure that you live. And so this is an exercise to help you imagine that 10 years from now. Essentially, this exercise gives you a long-term look at where you want to go. It helps you imagine if you live according to your values and lean into your strengths, where will that all take you? Where do you hope it takes you? And imagine for yourself the ideal kind of end state that you have for your life. So the remarkable Memento Mori 10-year good life quest, I know I need to come with a shorter name for that, is essentially a series of 5 sets of questions. I'm going to take you through the first 2 sets of questions today, and then the next 2 sets of questions tomorrow. And then the 5th set is kind of reflection on that. We'll do that in a couple days. But I'm going to give you a little bit of research to support this practice of envisioning a future. So long-term envisioning or visioning isn't just fantasy or wishful thinking. It's a psychologically powerful practice that increases motivation, resilience, and meaning. And here are 3 major research-backed reasons for this practice. So the first is called possible selves theory. Picturing a vivid future boosts motivation by giving your brain a clear target to move toward. In other words, imagining who you want to become strengthens your commitment and energizes long-term action. That's the idea of the possible selves theory. The second area of research that I think is helpful is the narrative identity research. We've talked about McAdams before and the origin story step. Part of that narrative identity concept is that long-range life stories provide a blueprint that organizes your decisions and direction. Your imagined future, in other words, becomes a guiding narrative that shapes your present behavior. And the third area of research that I think is helpful here is called hope theory. So articulating a 10-year vision increases resilience by strengthening both agency and pathways thinking. In other words, seeing a long future that you want makes you more resourceful and helps you persist when challenges appear. So that's just a little bit of research foundation for what I'm talking about here in terms of envisioning a future and taking your core values and sacred anchors into the future with you. If you'd like to explore some of these concepts that I've been talking about in the Compass framework, and do that with other people as a part of a community, I'd love for you to join the wait list that I have in the show notes below. So check that out. I'm hoping for 12 men that want to kind of join together and walk through these concepts together. So check that out. Before we get into the details of the exercise and the questions that I have for you today, I want to share a little bit of background about how I came to this exercise, how this developed. I'm calling it the remarkable Memento Mori, which is hard to say, I need to change it, 10-year good life quest. And it comes from 2 sources, basically, that I've integrated. The first was from Kevin Dahlstrom's Ideal End State Exercise. I think it's just on X, it's not published anywhere. He asks just 4 simple questions about the ideal future that you want to create. Who, what, where, and how. So he encourages people to ask this of themselves. Who you want to be around 10 years from now or at the end of your life. What you want to do with your time, your life energy. Where you want to live, and how you want your life to feel. Those 4 quadrants or questions he wants you to reflect on as a way of creating this ideal end state. He's done this. He's seen amazing success. He talks about these are good categories, but they take time to realize. But to really imagine for yourself where you want your life to go is a critical exercise in seeing it happen. So I did this ideal end state exercise for myself, and I'll give you what I did in the show notes below if you want. But that's one piece of this remarkable Memento Mori 10-year good life quest exercise. The other piece is actually called the Remarkable Life Deck, created by Debbie Tillman. She was in college, and her English professor, I think it was, had her write a paper, an essay about her future, what she wanted for her future. She did the exercise, set it aside, and sometime later, she picked up the letter and realized that a lot of what she wrote actually came true without her even focusing on, I guess, those goals directly. There's a lot of power to just writing something down. And even if you put it aside, a lot of that stuff could seep into your unconscious and it can come true. So that's what her exercise is based on, just taking the time to think through what you want your life to look like. And so I took those 2 things, the ideal end state and the remarkable life deck, came up with my own questions and this exercise to help people walk through envisioning their life in these different categories. I've done this exercise for myself, and it's helped ground me. It's helped me think through what's most important to me in different areas of my life and the kind of vision I have for my life over the next 10 years. I've also taken clients through this series of questions to help them envision a meaningful future. And I did this with a friend recently that I met in New Zealand, and I'll provide a link to those responses. We took several weeks to walk through these questions together. Great example of what it's like to walk through this with somebody else, which I'll mention to you again that I'm creating this gay men's group coaching wait list to talk about these things. So please check that out in the show notes below as well. Let me ask one more time, if the next 10 years of your life were a story worth telling, what would it be about? Not the practical version, not the safe version, the remarkable one. Today, as we move into the practical application part of this series, we're going to begin to shape that story by asking yourself these questions and responding to them in a meaningful way. So there's several sets of questions I mentioned as part of this exercise for envisioning your future. And I'm going to give you a sample of the first set of questions and then provide all of them in the show notes below. The first set of questions is about giving yourself permission to dream. Not practical dreams, not realistic dreams, but remarkable ones. I want you to use these prompts, these few prompts coming up, to let your imagination run untamed. Ask yourself these questions and write down the responses. Take the time to do that, because the implications for doing that simple exercise, can have far-reaching, positive, life-changing consequences. So here are the questions. What does your remarkable 10-year quest look like? What heroic story would you want to tell 10 years from now? What 3 impossible dreams would you dare to claim? What shadow beasts, fears, old beliefs, internal obstacles stand in your way? What artistry or mastery must you develop? Looking back 10 years from now, what brought you the most joy? All right, that's your first set of questions, and I want you to kind of take the time to think through that. I'll provide this first set of questions and the second set of questions in the show notes below. So take the time this week, if you're kind of going through the series together, to respond to each of those questions. And it could take, 10, 15, 20 minutes, hopefully not longer than that, to give you just a clearer sense of what you want out of life and how the next 10 years could unfold. So as you respond to these questions, the point isn't accuracy. The point is giving yourself permission to dream. So I've given you the first set of questions about the ideal end state, the dream life that you want. I'll give you another set of questions in the show notes below about your purpose, vocation, calling. It would be great if you could respond to each of these questions. Take the time, 15, 20 minutes, longer if you can, just to reflect on what you want out of life in these areas. And we'll get into 2 additional sets of questions next time as we look at creating this remarkable, ideal life for yourself. Your responses to these remarkable life questions, if you take the time to do it, can really set you up for greater success in your good life project. That year-long project that you're working on can help you clarify and make sure that your good life project is in alignment with your most important 10-year goals and your core values. So I hope you take the time to answer these questions for yourself. Invest in yourself by doing this. So one more reminder, if you'd like to do this kind of exercise with other people, with a group of men, please join our wait list. And I'd love to see you virtually with other men to walk through these concepts together. And so that's it for day 16. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.